Okay, so hello, welcome to the next of my podcast series, where we're going to be looking into the future of work, and in particular today for a key candidate group I work with, and that's going to be about democratizing coaching for the early careers. So before I start and get the ball rolling, a bit of a quick introduction from my perspective for anyone who's not kind of tuned in before. And my name is Dan Crerand. I'm the global program head for an early careers program called CEO for 1 month. For anyone who doesn't know me, who haven't had the pleasure of working with it before, I've been working in the early careers remit for 5 to 6 years now. One of a few key candidate groups who I've developed a passion for trying to support. I serve globally, as you can imagine, by global program head, but I work out of London in the United Kingdom. And for anyone who's joined a webinar or a podcast with me in the past, you'll be ecstatic to hear that you won't just be hearing me in isolation today. So I would have some sort of applause in there, but from a celebratory perspective, I will welcome today a good friend and colleague onto today's podcast, and that is Sirina Lebreton. Sirina, thank you for joining. If you'd be so kind, could you give us a bit of a personal introduction of your own?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited. I love podcasts anyway, so pleasure to be here. So I'm Sirina. I am a propositional strategist, which is a mouthful, but in a nutshell, it's looking at our different products that we have within the EZRA world and looking at how we can grow those products, how we can think about them strategically, all in the idea of democratizing coaching further, which historically has been something of a development tool for very senior people. So how do we bring this coaching superpower to more and more people? And one of the product proposition that I'm looking after is Focus by EZRA, which we'll talk a little bit more about later.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Sirina. It's lovely to have you, and yeah, someone who's got a more impressive job title than I have, which is always good to see. So earlier I briefly mentioned that I'm the global head for CEO for 1 month. So let me quickly elaborate on that for anyone who's unaware. CEO for 1 month is an inclusive internship. It's the flagship early careers program of the EZRA Group. It is open to anyone above the age of 18 with no educational or work experience needs, which really gives us the chance to kind of develop the next generation of talent as we're removing kind of many of the key barriers that often exist with some early careers programs. Definitely the most interesting role I've had in my professional career. I can say that confidently. We have a chance to work with a massive audience of candidates. So this year, 185,000 of you fantastic people applied for our program. So crucially, it gives me the opportunity to reach out and give more of a recruitment experience, more than just a recruitment experience, really, to all of those applicants who have taken the time to come through. In detail, it sounds simple, but I'll just elaborate for anyone who has not come across it yet. But each of our countries runs a local campaign. So they will work with media and education developmental partners. They run a process, a selection event, and they choose a country winner who will get the opportunity to have a paid internship with the country head of the point of their application. So I think we have 34 finalists this year, and probably even if the process ended there, I see that as a fantastic and high value opportunity in its own right to spend time with a country head of a business of our size. But yeah, it doesn't stop there. Throughout the summer, that's where they kind of join me in more detail. We have these 34 finalists. They complete a challenge month where they have the opportunity to work across different time zones, collaborate together as a massive global team, working on tasks such as speed networking events, Dragon's Den, Shark Tank. They've got a submission of their own innovation project in line with kind of our business needs, with the overall aim of becoming global CEO for 1 month. And that all leads us to the showpiece, which is the Global Bootcamp. This year it is going to be in 4 weeks' time. I've got a little bit of work to do, but 4 weeks' time in Milan, Italy, where we invite 10 of our global finalists together from all around the globe for a bit of an interactive learning experience. So a great kind of event for them to attend. And at the end of the final day, the finalists get the kind of amazing opportunity to work with our global CEO, Denis Michel, and the chosen person will get the option to spend 1 additional month traveling around the world and the EZRA Group business to understand directly what the life of a CEO actually entails. So truly fantastic opportunities, I'm sure you can imagine, to get that experience at that part of your career, and something I'm sure we all probably would love. So that's me. That's me in the world of CEO for a month and relating into the Adecco Group. But since I've got Sirina in front of me, maybe if you don't mind, give the listeners a bit of soundbite in terms of talk to us around EZRA and the world of EZRA coaching.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just for the CEO for 1 month program, if I had learned about this opportunity when I was 18, trust me, I would have been the first one to apply. It's super exciting to see how Tag and the Adecco Group is really investing in those young talents and building the future of work, really. But a little bit about EZRA. So EZRA is, I actually love the actual word EZRA. It means helper. And that's in a nutshell what we're trying to do. So as I said, it's really about democratizing something that's historically been for more senior people. It is a digital coaching provider, part of the Adecco Group. So it's really wonderful to be able to leverage our amazing family within the Adecco Group globally. And what we're trying to understand within EZRA is how we can help people develop themselves at all levels. So we talk about democratizing, but we also have services for really, really senior people, for really, really junior people, but also people in between. And when I say in between, I mean think of parents that are coming back to the workplace and they need a little bit of a boost, and coaching can do wonders there. Think about your high potentials that need that guidance, that need the networking skills. Thinking about as well people that just need a little bit of help communicating, or a little bit of help in terms of their biases. And we do wonderful work with D&I, and there's just such a non-exhaustive realm of opportunities that people can explore with coaching. And we do this either on a unlimited basis, which is really the bigger work and the bigger projects that we run with our clients, but we also do this in an unlimited format, which is more of a shot in the arm, and that is really more for junior people, because they don't really need the same level of depth in terms of their development just right now. Doesn't mean that they won't need that development a little bit more thoroughly later on, but right now it's really about understanding your points of development and your weaknesses, and just working towards them. There's lots that we do at EZRA, but in a nutshell, that's our game.
Yeah, cool. As you say, there's lots they do in EZRA. I think certainly part of the Adecco Group families. I am certainly not being paid to say it, but they are a fantastic product, a fantastic business. Having that kind of under the Adecco Group umbrella and having that as something we can access is amazing. Something since the pandemic, especially, I think, were those water cooler conversations, office dialogues reduced. I think developmental one-to-ones, coaching, etc., was always something that was too tricky for a lot of people previously, but so since the pandemic, to have something which is a bit more digital focused seems like a good place for it to go. For everyone kind of wondering kind of what is the link, I suppose the relevance to today's podcast is that for the first time in 2023, this is something we took a little bit of time to think about previously, but we have actually committed to giving all our CEO 4-month finalists further investment. So they've all been given an EZRA focused coaching package to help their development as they progress through our program, through our recruitment journey. If they do move on to another company or go back to university or college studies, etc., or do not decide to kind of stay in the business, that's something that's not relevant for us. We are investing in these people. We want to show them that by applying for our program, this is more than just a recruitment process, as I mentioned before. So yeah, really buzzing to see how the feedback comes off the back of the program. So it is a podcast. It wouldn't be a podcast without some questions. So I'm going to start off with some questions. One thing I often do is I always tell any candidates or any students, even people outside of the early careers group, that they should always think about having a coach or a mentor. And I often get a bit of a slightly unsure response. So a big question to start for anyone listening and not certain, simply just talk to me about coaching and what is coaching.
It's a great question. I think there's a fine line, but the line is here between mentorship, coaching, and therapy. And so what a mentor will do is what a good mentor will do is take their experiences and apply it based on your situation as a mentee. So let's say that you're having issues networking, for instance. Then your mentor will tell you, oh, well, I've done it like this or I've done it like that. Why don't I connect you with someone and get the ball rolling for you? So they will really guide you into specific actions based on their experience. A therapist will kind of go back into, the big why. Why are you, reacting to certain things the way that you are, and really try to dig into those complicated knots, if you will. And a coach will more often than not have a breadth of experience in the professional space. There are some coaches that are career coaches as well, but the coaches that we have, at least at EZRA, I'm gonna say like 90% of them are coaches that have that professional experience behind. And what they do so wonderfully that I would love one day to be able to do is that they ask the right questions. So they will probe participants into thinking kind of outside the box, into taking a step back from their situation, but they will never tell you what to do. Or they will, it's really more of a guiding work than it is of a telling work. And that's the golden rule within coaching, is ask, don't tell. So really asking those specific questions. And then there are different ways to be coached, and I'm talking about professional coaching here, not talking about sports coaching, which is like a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But there is, speed coaching. There is more long-term coaching. It really depends on the use case. But it's about helping that participant answer their own questions and find the answers themselves, and that really has such an amazing impact, because just from like a behavioral science standpoint, if you're given the answer directly, it's not really going to stick as well, versus if you find it yourself and if you really kind of look at your situation, it gives you the tools to analyze that in the future and to find the solutions for yourself in the future with another scenario. So I mean, that's what I love about coaching, and you can really see it every day, and that's what I love about working within EZRA as well, is that we're truly human business, and we help individuals figure it out, kind of accompanied with a coach, but by themselves at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Ask, don't tell. I'll take that away. So yeah, no, thanks, Sirina. It's as simple as that, everyone. No, all joking aside, I think that's what needs to be clarified to make it more commonplace. I think there are kind of stigmas attached to it, or at least over the kind of last 5, 10, 15 years. Even just from a personal experience, I remember going to the boot camp last year. I won't mention any names, but if you are listening from the South American candidate group, then you'll probably know who you are. But I was reached out to by one of our former finalists who I'd mentioned to them that they should think about a coach and that kind of thing post-program once they were flying home after last year's process. And they did follow up with me on LinkedIn to say, can we talk more about what a coach is? Talk to me about who that is, where I could find this, what type of person do I need to look for, or organization. And that's where I think these kind of conversations for me continue, because I realized at that point there is a bit of a huge gap there. And it's actually quite a simple thing when you kind of break it down like that. But I think for a lot of people, it's not always seen the same. So I think following on from that, so new investment for 2023, thinking to 2024 applicants in terms of kind of what have you missed out on for this year, or what you maybe can look forward to next year. Can I just quickly ask you to walk through our current collaboration? So maybe more specifically, talk to me about what our candidates can expect, or what they are currently going through as registered with EZRA.
Yeah, for sure. So the candidates are put on an experience which is called Focus by EZRA, which is focused on one specific topic. There are thousands of focus puns. I'll try to limit them to one or two. But in a nutshell, they are going on a journey with a coach to talk about their development. They have 3 sessions over the course of 10 weeks. And in between each of those sessions, they have what we call behavioral nudges. So what a behavioral nudge is, it's a self-reflection activity between each development session. So it's going to be a 1 or 2 minute read with open-ended questions, helping the participants to really reflect on the sessions that just happened or the next session that's scheduled in a day or two. And what that will do is that will help the participants kind of get set and get ready for their next session, but also for the coach to understand, okay, what's at stake here? What's the context? And to really individualize that experience. When you look at, those webinars that, we have been on, often they're not really relevant. They're not really, and they're not really relevant to you, to your company, to your situation, because they are generic, and that's their business, and we need those for specific topics. But when you're talking about development in a context such as CEO for 1 month, which is so specific, which has individuals that are, superstars in this world of young talent, it's really important to have that specific for them and for their experience. So what they're talking about in their development session with their coach is really to boost their capabilities for the future and to really help them make the most out of the CEO for 1 month experience.
Yeah, that's awesome, and kudos to you and the team, because from what I'm hearing originally, I think they didn't know what to expect from this part of the process, but it's been really well received. So yeah, kudos to you and the team on that one.
Love to hear that. So let me ask you a question. You said that this was the first year that CEO for 1 month had Focus by EZRA, or had any EZRA actually. What made you kind of want to implement that within the program, and what would look good for you at the end, and what's like the output that you're hoping to see when this all finishes?
Yeah, apart from EZRA being the cool brand, it's good to have them obviously involved in the process for sure. No, I think I've worked in early careers for a long time now. I think I used to going back a few years, I used to be the person that would be at university events and you'd be giving away freebies, pens and hats, and moved into kind of chargers, that kind of things as we moved along. And that very quickly became something that was Gen Z's specific population. They want more, they want less material, they want this kind of meaningful learning. And who can blame them? They really value their time, probably more than any other generation. I think they want this continuous development. So for me, it was about switching the priorities a little bit and thinking about, okay, I spend X amount of money with attraction, and instead, how can I take that kind of front loading investment and put it into the back end of the process so that we could take something out of this. Coaching was definitely something that I was always interested in. I always wanted a recruitment experience to be more than just that, a recruitment experience. So yeah, there's a bit of a narrative behind it from a personal perspective. I think from the role of CEO for 1 month finalist, you speak to any of the guys and we'll hopefully hear from them later this year, but it's tricky, it's busy. I wanted them to be supported from May to August until the end of their process. And it sounds cheesy, but I remember being in Zurich last year for the boot camp. I saw the candidates arrive on the Sunday morning. They were the top 10 out of 140,000, I think. So wow. As you can imagine, yeah, you think to yourself, you're probably going to have a series of extremely capable and confident people, which they were, certainly from a capable perspective. But you do also see them. There's a lot of self-doubt from speaking to them, because we're not just at an assessment event, which maybe I would have done in previous jobs. We're having dinners together. We're doing activities together. We're doing Win for Youth kind of sporting activities together. And you start seeing people through their real selves. There is self-doubt and imposter syndrome, confidence levels, confidence in their English, which was kind of I could dispel that very quickly because I thought it was brilliant. Or simply just they didn't know which direction to go in their career next. And I think in the boot camp, we obviously try and engage them. We have keynote speakers, we have coaching sessions, and ironically, we actually have a guest coming from EZRA this year who's going to be delivering the coaching sessions, which is going to be a lovely ending to their Focus by EZRA coaching that they're going to have that conclude in that manner. But I think the moral of the story is that I saw people, and I spoke to a couple of individuals who had come from a new city, potentially from thousands of miles away. And I watched them grow individually from day one to day 5. And I'm telling you, there were people that maybe on day 0, day 1, they were really not out of their shell. I thought to myself, maybe that person's going to struggle, but I just watched them grow every single day as they started having more and more interaction, as they had good time with us and we had the chance to let them believe in themselves. And my thinking was that if we could deploy that and do that in 4 to 5 days for a really intensive boot camp, why can I not do it in a 10-week process as a country winner? What if that person maybe was super talented, high potential, but didn't believe in themselves? They'll probably go through our top 34 global process. And being completely honest, they'll probably finish well outside those top 10 positions because they just couldn't get there in time. So instead, by bringing this coaching in now, it's maybe that person who was going to finish, say, 34th out of 34, who's to say that by putting this coaching in, giving them 10 weeks of support, that voila, who says that by the time the announcement comes in August the 31st, that we cannot get them into the top 10 because they've accelerated their learning and unearthed their potential. And that's kind of in my head. It might be a little bit fairy tale, but that's kind of how I see it happening from my personal experience. So from an output perspective, I'd like to see myself as an early careers leader, clients, and now so we're working internally. I want to lead from the front and normalize this type of investment. So whether you're an early careers provider, a grad program, an internship, or even just people in general at this stage of their career, help people to see, as you mentioned earlier on, that it's not what maybe they perceived it as previously. It doesn't need to be in person. You don't need to lie on a couch. It doesn't need to be face to face. It doesn't need to be out of budget for many people as well. We are looking at things like Focus by EZRA, which is, for me personally, I think it's amazing because you sometimes see people rejecting development because it's too much time, especially in the UK. We have a lot of problems with getting people to commit to apprenticeships because there's a lot of time and effort that must be weaved into their studies or weaved into their employment. Whereas I think what we've found with this is a happy mix, which means that they can work around both things and they can do it in their own time. They can do it where they want and when they want, and that's the kind of main thing. So yeah, probably that's what I'd like to get out of it, is normalizing it so that we can start pushing this out to the market, and then hopefully more early careers kind of advocates are thinking in the same way.
Yeah, I love that, honestly. Like at EZRA, we're obsessed with ROI, and I think obsessed is like almost not strong enough as a word. But just the idea of having that participant that could have, come in place 34, but with that coaching, like how does that help him achieve place number 10 or number 1 even? And I mean, I love that blue sky thinking, and I think we can definitely get there and get that data, and it's just amazing. It's an amazing project.
Yeah, in the top 34, like, we want to help them unearth themselves and get into the top 10, but we kind of try and support them. A lot of them do join our business as well. So it's about just getting to that point where if I see that person mythically go from not giving themselves a chance to be in the top 10 to even being close or rising 5 spaces, for example, it's just growth. So yeah, really, really good. As I say, we're looking to see the feedback, and hopefully it will be good for everyone to see. But I'll swing it back to you again. Another question. So obviously when you joined EZRA, you get the opportunity to get your own coach. So delving into maybe the more personal world, if you don't mind, but can you talk to me through your own coaching journey and maybe what it's meant for you?
Yeah. So I've been part of the EZRA world for 2.5 years, which doesn't seem like a lot, but actually makes me part of the furniture, because I've been in the business when it was like very, very small still. And yeah, as you said, so every employee at EZRA gets their own coach. And what we do is that we have 6 months on and then 6 months off to reflect, kind of take those actions that we talked about during our coaching journey. So I had the pleasure of working with 2 different coaches, and they were both very, very different. One of them was British and one of them was French, and I wanted to see that duality just because I'm half Brit, half French, and seeing that kind of that cultural element to see, like, does coaching differ a little bit, and it really doesn't. If you have a great coach, you have a great coach. That's kind of like the end of the line here. But it's interesting because I came into coaching very almost reluctant. I didn't really know what to expect. I thought I was fine. I didn't know if I really needed that extra bit of TLC. And actually, during those sessions, you uncover so much that you're not even aware of. So for instance, I had like I'm very talkative, but I do have a bit of social anxiety sometimes. And so I was like, how do these two things kind of compete in my head, and how do I work around it so that it doesn't affect me in the workplace, or even better, how can I take this as an advantage and make it work for me? Like imposter syndrome, for instance, I had no idea that I had this in my mind. But actually talking through my coach and talking through different things that had happened at work and different interactions that I had, my coaches were both like, we have to dive a little deeper into this subject. And yeah, it's just helping you uncover so much. And one of my colleagues that I absolutely loved, after my first coaching engagement, she told me the Sirina that I met 6 months ago is not the same Sirina now. And I knew that you were a great hire for the company and that you were going to do great things, but now it's like game changer. And so I was like, yeah, sure, okay, thanks. But but actually, when I take a step back and I kind of look at my development journey over the last 2 years with these two coaches, I can really see such a difference. And it's not just in terms of, yes, of course, I gained some professional experience because I've been working at the company for 2 years. So obviously you learn the kind of hard skills and the networking, but it's so much more than that. It's so much more development than I had in my previous company where I didn't have coaching. So it's a very kind of like A/B test that I can see for myself, and the result is just it's grand, honestly.
Yeah, that's it. I think that was probably one of the skeptical nature of myself when I was younger, was probably thinking it was more professional coaching, when in fact it does turn into be personal.
Yeah. Have you had any coaching experience?
So I haven't managed to extend my EZRA group agreement into the world of EZRA yet, but it's very much underway now. We are having those discussions, but I think one of the reasons why I'm such an advocate of coaching is born out of regret. I think my early career's position was spent in like a confused, misdirected, misunderstood direction, especially with regards to coaching and personal development. I actually had the chance to. One of the members of the EZRA team, when I first spoke a couple of years ago, offered it to me, to my teams, to get an opportunity to understand it a little bit more,
That
so
me.
that we could talk. Might have been you.
Yeah.
Great. Didn't even remember your name. But yeah, so it was Sirina. But they, again, I think they were probably the same as me. They were they've been in the business for like 10, 15 years actually. And I always thought I was a great manager. I always thought really hot on my one-to-ones. I always have time for my team members. I'd like to think they still feel like supported, but maybe I was too quick to assume things about my team too often. They got enrolled onto this coaching agreement and they came back so positive, speaking to someone who knew nothing about their day-to-day or their history in the business or some of their challenges, and just opened out into a new personal discussion. So when I heard this, I got myself initially I got myself a coach, and as I say, now I'm moving into the world of EZRA for my coaching. Never really looked back. I think I suppose for myself, I mentioned it being easy earlier. My thought process around my coaching now is that once I seen how easy EZRA was to use, when I want, where I want, as mentioned, that's something which I found was really important around my kind of really up and down kind of workloads in a really large business. So I think from my perspective, I think I really have, from what I've learned in coaching to date, I suppose that my skills are more valuable than I probably appreciated. They're certainly more transferable than I realized. And I'm talking not just hard skills here, but very much soft skills. And in a world probably where skill shortages, changes with AI, etc., are kind of imminent, I think it's amazing that there's these types of practices involved to help people to understand what their personal strengths are, where their ability lies, so that if they are asked to, or do you know what, they want to upskill or reskill, then they are better positioned to make the right decisions. Because simply put, they know what future industries or roles will suit them, and which ones probably won't suit them. And the way I looked at it was, these kind of sessions just let you find yourself to the point where you can almost take your own destiny into your own hands, because a lot of people will get pushed into directions of skill shortages in years to come. Whereas I'd like to be kind of a little bit ahead of the curve on that one.
Always.
Sirina, a final call to action. One last question, I promise. Let's say an employer, one of my clients, or an educational institution comes up to one of our candidates or yourself and offers you the chance to be coached. So for anyone who's still on the fence, maybe presented with the opportunity to receive coaching, maybe not sure, maybe yet to understand, what would your advice be to them?
Well, the advice that I would give myself 2 years ago, because that was like literally my scenario. I was very reluctant to going into coaching. I thought it was a fad. It wasn't really going to do anything. My advice is, do it. What's the worst that can happen? But also go in with an open mind. I mean, there are so many resources available for development. There are not that many resources available for individualized development. And having that conversation with a human, with someone that you can interact, that has those emotions that you can connect with, it's really an out of this world experience. And the relationship that I don't receive any coaching from my my two previous coaches that I talked about, but we still have that bond, and we still connect from time to time, because you have that connection. You've built something with them, you've evolved with them, you've developed yourself. It's a truly human experience, and I think it's such a shame to miss out on it. I'm creating a bit of fear of missing out, but the key message here is really go for it and try it.
Cool. Well, there you have it, folks. FOMO. If that doesn't get you to open your eyes to the world of coaching, then nothing will. So, yeah, from my perspective, I think before we close it down, what I would say is please keep an eye on socials over the next few weeks, both kind of EZRA Coaching and CEO for 1 month. We are going to look to follow up with more details from our CEO for 1 month finalists. We're going to get some really true feedback from them directly, both as they're coming towards the end of their experience now, but also as we have 10 people selected to go to the bootcamp. We will be kind of doing a lot of work interviewing them out in Milan face-to-face to try and bring this information back and share it with the kind of wider audience to really see. We'll probably try and bring somebody in from the behavioral science team, also maybe even bring one of our finalists in to talk firsthand around their experiences. So potentially even a follow-up podcast with Sirina and I, if you are lucky. But before I look to formally say my goodbyes and before we head up to the sunset, any final words from you, Sirina?
I mean, just to follow up on anyone that's reluctant or that's curious, we have a great website, and shout out to our marketing team. It's called helloezra.com. And you've got a bunch of resources on there. Dig around. We've got an amazing new white paper that came out, which is about building one-to-one development at scale. We've got some amazing case studies from our clients, like HSBC or Microsoft, to drop a few names. But yeah, just have a look around, and look out for our social media. We're very active on LinkedIn as well.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, Sirina. Yeah, so before I finish, one final call to action from myself. Really busy next 4 weeks. We're going to be out in Milan for the boot camp. Unfortunately, somebody's got to do it, but luckily Sirina and some of the remainder of the EZRA team will also be joining me out there too, which is going to be great to meet everyone face to face. We have a couple of live streams coming. Firstly, on August the 31st, 3 p.m. Central European Summertime, we'll be announcing our top 10 finalists for 2023. So yours truly will be involved in that production. And then on September the 13th at 10 a.m. Central European Summertime, again, please tune in to see our top 5 finalists talk to the global audience. before our CEO, Denis Mochuel, announces the 2023 winner live from Milan. So for more information, please follow CEO for 1 month on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, whichever is your preference. And we'll provide more details closer to the event in terms of links to join. And that's my promo done, I promise. Finally, Sirina, it's a big thank you again. An absolute pleasure catching up with you as ever. Really appreciate you taking the time to join me today. Looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks' time. And finally, to anyone who's taken the time to join us today by listening, thank you very much. And I look forward to speaking to you all again soon.